Clare Daly, 30 seconds in.
Minister, this question relates to our trade and business links with Egypt. And what consideration in any of those arrangements are given to human rights violations, particularly to examine those links over the past 3 years during the incarceration of Irish citizen Ibrahim Halawa, and what role that is playing into those deliberations, because I think it should be an incredibly strong...
Deputy, thank you very much. My department has not been involved in any discussions since the 1st of August 2013 in regard to trade missions to Egypt. What I will say to you is that I am very concerned myself. I'm very personally sympathetic to what has happened to Ibrahim, and I am moved, and I'm not happy that he's incarcerated. But I do understand that a judicial process works differently in Egypt than it does in Ireland or many other countries. The matter does not, what I will also say is that there is, everything being done diplomatically for Ibrahim. For example, we would have, I'm aware that various submissions have been made to the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade by different lawyers and NGOs. And at all time, the key question guiding our approach is what stands the best chance of securing the positive progress for Ibrahim at the earliest possible opportunity. The government has been in contact with other states who have had citizens in similar situations, and it is the government's considered approach, supported by decades of diplomatic experience and extensive consultation with these states, that our diplomatic efforts still represent the best means of achieving the twin goals of protecting Ibrahim's welfare and securing his release at the earliest opportunity. The next hearing is scheduled for June the 29th. Embassy officials will be in attendance, as they have been at every hearing of his trial, to monitor and report on developments on the day. There has been frequent and ongoing communication with his family members through our embassy in Cairo or the Department of Foreign Affairs headquarters in Dublin.
Thank you, Minister.
Thanks, Minister. I'm aware that most of the business links are in an agricultural format, and I suppose the heart of this issue is we have to use whatever economic clout we have to put manners on or to influence authorities and other regimes where there are human rights violations, because not to do that is placing profit over people. And I suppose the comparison really and the feeling would be, it was articulated very clearly by the Australian captive who shared a cell with Ibrahim, Peter Gresta, who said that the Australian government had lobbied very, very forcefully for his release, and the softly approach of the Irish government has not been sufficient, in my opinion, and we should be pulling out the stops in terms of our agricultural dealings or whatever, because it's not a different judicial process. It's a system of mass imprisonment, torture and appalling human rights violations in a completely undemocratic and unaccountable regime. So I really do think we have to do more in that regard.
Thank you, Deputy.
Right. Look, our priority is to see that Ibrahim is returned to his family and that he can continue his studies. And second of all, we do want to provide every possible consular support for his welfare where he remains in detention. What I can also say is Minister Flanagan has been in regular contact with the Egyptian counterpart, Minister Shurkri, and the Taoiseach has twice met with President El-Sisi, making clear the Irish government's concerns and objectives in this case. Given that the trial is ongoing, the government must remain measured and responsible in its public comment. This is entirely consistent with our approach as in other consular cases. And while our objectives are clear, I too, along with you, Deputy, and all decent Irish people, want to see Ibrahim released.
Thank you, Minister. Talk to Clare Daly.
About being measured, I think we have to look at the fact that Egyptian human rights organisations have documented at least 124 deaths in custody in the time frame that we're talking about through medical negligence, torture and ill treatment. And we know that this young Irish man is in danger from his own testimony, which was smuggled out, where he talked about waking up every morning to the screams of prisoners being tortured, sleeping on the floor, witness being punched, kicked, beaten, slapped, witnessing the torture and crucifixion of others. This is a young man at the start of his life. The trauma that this experience has already inflicted on him is undoubtedly going to last him a lifetime, and there is an urgency. And the fact that the Australian government were able to negotiate the release of one of their citizens should give us a signal as to what we can be doing more. And I would ask you to contact the IFA and your ministerial colleague in agriculture to use their clout a lot more, because being nice and mindful hasn't delivered the results yet.
Thank you, Deputy. Antara, final reply.
Thank you, Deputy, and I hear what you're saying. What I will say is that the government will continue to be measured. That is the best consular advice that we have received, and that is what is happening. As I said, Minister Flanagan has regular contact with his Egyptian counterparts. Our Taoiseach has met with the President on 2 occasions, and we will continue to do our best to ensure the earliest possible release for Ibrahim.